All right, everyone, I hope you're enjoying your breakfast. Please continue eating, but while you're enjoying our meal this morning, I want to introduce our Board of Directors for the South Dakota Hall of Fame. This esteemed Board of Directors governs the South Dakota Hall of Fame, and they are leaders from the fields of finance, philanthropy, business, healthcare, government, and nonprofit organizations. They're drawn to serve the South Dakota Hall of Fame because it's a unique organization that exists to honor, inspire, and educate about South Dakota's greats. We preserve that precious history for our state and rely on it to inspire all of our youth. The South Dakota Hall of Fame has been in existence for 49 years now, going back to 1974. In 1996, the South Dakota Legislature deemed the South Dakota Hall of Fame in Chamberlain as South Dakota's official Hall of Fame. We are a 501c3 public charity led by the impressive Board of Directors. So Board of Directors, please come to the stage as I call your name and stay until we're all gathered for a photo. First, the officers of the board, we have John Porter of Sioux Falls, who serves as chair, Mike Cartney of Watertown, who serves as vice chair, and chair of the programming and nominating committees. Marcy Burdick of Rapid City serves as the past chair, and she is on the nominating committee. Dr. Lauren Cheddar serves as secretary and chair of the Fund Development Committee, and Pete Kappa of Rapid City serves as treasurer and chair of the Finance Committee. Now, other board of directors here today include Steve Flannery of Rapid City, Brad Hopt of Rapid City, Randy Hodak of Highmore, Michelle LaValle of Sioux Falls, Jerry Lickness of Watertown, and Erica Peterson of Chamberlain, Dave Rosenboom of Sioux Falls, who serves as the vice chair of the Finance Committee, and Ann Thompson of Rapid City. Also, incoming board of director candidates who are with us today include Kitty Kinsman of Rapid City and Catherine Clark of Sioux Falls. Please help me recognize the South Dakota Hall of Fame Board of Directors right now. Thank you all very much for your service on this committee. Well, I hope everyone has had enough time to eat. If our inductees are ready, I think we're going to start having you come to the stage. We want to thank again our sponsor, First Premier Bank Card, for this event. Our inductees, why don't you all come to the stage right now? Your names are up on the chairs, and I'll introduce you once you're able to be seated up here. Well, inductees, as you're making your way, I'll just introduce who we have here today. Our 2023 inductees are Dr. Robert Arnio. He fell ill and is not able to be with us today, but his son-in-law, Eric Porish, will be joining us on his behalf. We also have Bruce Badmoccasin, Walt Bones, Dr. Thomas Dean, Dr. Yosei Marie Griffiths, Dr. Pam Homan, Gary Muledeer, Larry Rohrer, Haney Chafee, and Paul Vinatieri, but we have, he's here for Adam Vinatieri, his son. Thank you all for joining us on stage. And from this point on, your MC and panel facilitator will be Board of Director Dave Rosenboom, President of First Premier Bank of Sioux Falls.
I think it's safe to say you can all be seated. Well, good morning, South Dakota Hall of Fame class of 2023. This is the first time I think we've had you all on stage together. Congratulations. Well, it's an honor and privilege for me to be able to facilitate our conversation this morning. and I very much look forward to this. And while there's a good bit of formality that goes with an honors ceremony to the South Dakota Hall of Fame, can we agree that this is going to be the least formal part of it all? In fact, we look forward to your acceptance speeches tonight, but what this morning gives us is a unique opportunity just to get to know each other a little bit better and to gain some insights into each one of you and what has really led you here to this celebration this weekend. So let's have some fun with this. And with Gary Mueller on stage, I don't think we're going to have any problem having a little bit of fun. So if things get a little too serious, Gary, I'm going to point to you.
It was light this time of the morning.
Yes, Gary, there are indeed 2 10 o'clocks each day. So, Dr. Griffiths, let's begin with you. I think it's always interesting when people first learn that they've been inducted into South Dakota Hall of Fame, and I'd like to know what your reaction to that was and maybe what this means to you.
I had a call from Dr. Porter and Laurie, and my first reaction was, "Are you serious?" And that's rather rude, I decided. That's not the appropriate thing to say. But my next thing was to blurt out, "I've only been here 8 years." And I think John Porter said, "Well, that's why we're giving it to you." And then I thought, but I haven't finished. You know, you're supposed to give it when I've done it, when I've finished everything. That was my reaction. But really, truly humbled to sit with this group of people, to be inducted into the Hall of Fame with a lot of other excellent people over the years. So, yeah, amazing. Thank you.
Terrific. And I'm going to ask our Hall of Famers that the mic system you're using is one of those that needs to be right up to your mouth so that everybody can hear. And so we'll just remind you of that, and don't be bashful. Larry, what was your reaction when you first learned?
When Lori and John called, my wife Marilyn and I were at the Sioux Falls Airport, ready to board a flight that would take us to Switzerland and then on to Ireland. And they were just about ready to call our flight. After the call, I looked at my wife and I said, "Good, now I can retire." But I have to say, 15 years earlier, I was at the Sioux Falls Airport ready to board, and I got a call from Tom Froning in Fargo, who was told to call me and said, "Larry, you guys should start an honor flight in South Dakota." So I think we need to travel more. Good things happen.
Gary Mueller, you learned that you were inducted. What was your reaction?
Well, I hadn't had a drink in 37 years, so now I'm drinking tequila. Smoked 2 packs of cigarettes today, and does anyone have any heroin? No, actually, it's pretty incredible for me. I had a couple of really good friends, Carlos Cavell from Spearfish and Paul Egby, who'd been trying to get me in since the Johnson administration. So, yeah, I'm very fortunate. I feel very fortunate to be part of this whole group, and I mean, an amazing group. Everyone here. Doesn't get any better than this, seriously.
You know, I've had the good fortune of serving on the board of directors now for 5 years, and that means I've read upwards of 200 nominations to the South Dakota Hall of Fame board. And first of all, it's absolutely an incredible honor to be able to do that and to select each of you. But the people that have been selected, probably the most common word and reaction is they're humbled by it. And so I'm often reminded that we're elevating and lifting you up at a time when you feel like the most humbled and undeserving. And I know that's a trait that I've experienced through years of these induction ceremonies. I also know that you're least interested in talking about yourselves. Well, during your lifetime, can you share a story or two on who mentored you and how they helped contribute to your success? And I'm going to start with Bruce Badmoccasin for this one. Yes. So Bruce, one thing we've all benefited from is having a mentor in our life. And I'm just interested if you had a particular person that helped shape and form you and helped contribute to your success.
First call about going to the award, I was surprised because I've been out of work for about 20 years. So I couldn't find my stuff was in a box somewhere. So anyway, when I was in high school, I was playing track meet, and the coach told me that a guy from the school of mines wanted to talk to you about the be engineer. So I talked to the coach. His name is Jim Captain. He's from North Dakota College. He talked about sporting. He said you get cross country, basketball, track. He said, but if you come to the school of mines, if you want to be an engineer, it's a lot of work, time, more studies. So I used Jim because every day, because I went to all of those sports, he's my coach, all of them, 4 years. So he talked to me every day about hard time and time. When you're in sports and study, you don't have time for everything. Sometimes I didn't even go back to home in tournaments, so I didn't get home. So I love this place. It's my family. College was a life for me. So I stayed that for 4 years. So I know Jim like my father away from home. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Walt, would you care to share a mentor in your life?
Without a doubt, it'd be my dad. Taught us the value, the reward of hard work. Taught us to appreciate the natural resources that we were entrusted with there on the farm. He led by example. I mean, he would never ask anybody to do anything that he wouldn't be willing to do himself. So he was by far and away probably the biggest influence in my life. Honesty was always his best policy. And again, when you're growing up on a multi-generational family farm, you know, that mentoring means an awful lot. And just day before yesterday, if you wouldn't mind me sharing, I was reading a devotional, and I really thought it spoke to not only the mentoring of family businesses, family farms, but just maybe family and the mentoring of our kids as well. And this is from Sky Jeffany. It says, "We need more intergenerational relationships that allow the fragile faith of the young to borrow the decades of tested faith from the old." And I knew this was coming up, and I just thought that was really pretty special. So I think it, again, really spoke to me.
Yeah. Dr. Dean.
Well, I have a recollection from many, many years ago. I was a freshman in college. I was in a very demanding academic environment, something I was not used to. I was used to getting A's in high school, and all of a sudden I failed 3 German quizzes in a row, and things did not look good. So somehow, and I don't exactly remember how this got arranged, but one of the senior faculty members apparently got word or figured out or somehow that I was not doing well. I was really planning on going back to the farm and cultivating corn, which really, for any of you that know about cultivating corn, because there isn't many people anymore that know about that, is not a very attractive future. But anyway, he called me in and he said, "I understand you're struggling a bit." And I said, "Yeah, that's right." And he said, "You know, when kids from small towns and farms come to this environment, they very often struggle. And he said that, you know, you just need to hang in there because you can do it. And he said kids with your background usually end up doing well. And he said there's two reasons. He said when you come off the farm, kids that have had that experience have common sense and they know how to work. And he said, you can do this. And I came out, I can remember that, it was 55 years ago or something like that. I remember that experience like it was yesterday, and I came out of that meeting feeling I was 10 feet tall. And so it really is important.
What a powerful story. Thank you for sharing that. Now I'm going to turn over to Hanny. I think you were going to respond to this one as well.
You know, mentorship takes really a system of support from family, friends, colleagues, and sometimes neighbors. You know, the two mentorship stories that I would share with you is, number one, my dad, you know, he, like most farmers, you know, and teachers are underpaid in every part of the world, and farmers work 24 hours a day. My dad worked as a teacher, and after school, he would actually go work in a factory to clean it after work inside Israel. And my mom tended to the farm. And still, they were able to save enough money to give to our neighbors who are less fortunate. So those two taught me how to work hard and always have more than one job going at the same time. And, you know, so, and also the spirit of giving to other people, because, you know, whatever you're given by God is really, you're just a conduit to give it to somebody else who may need it probably worse than you do. The other story was my professor, Jack Anderson, who taught me school math in Birzeit University, a Catholic school north of Jerusalem. He knew our conditions, and I was a good student. And he actually, you know, the school was being closed due to political reasons, and he said, here's a check for $500, and you go see this lady at the U.S. consulate, and you get a ticket from this other lady at a travel agency. He took me to those two places, actually, and he said, I want to help you out, achieve your goal, and fulfill your dream of being an engineer. And I said, okay, how do I pay you? And he said, you don't have to pay me. All you gotta do is someday, when you make it, you help somebody else like I'm helping you. So that is really a true mentorship. You know, the spirit of hard work and the spirit of giving to other people. And I would never forget those two values, no matter what.
It's amazing to me how vividly each of you could recall a moment in time, a single conversation that in some ways would change the course of your life. So I just encourage everybody in the audience to not only have a mentor, but more importantly, to be a mentor. You never know when that conversational will make all the difference in the world. Thank you for sharing that. So I acknowledged earlier that talking about yourself is arguably your least comfortable topic. I do want to hear from a few of you on some highlights in your career that you're particularly proud of, that you would like to share with us, or that hold special meaning with you. So I'm going to ask Eric, you are going to represent Dr. Arnio today. If I understand right, you're his son-in-law, and you were voluntold that you were going to do this morning.
That's correct.
So thank you for being here and for doing this.
So yes, my father-in-law is sick. He's getting better. He tested positive for COVID yesterday morning when he woke up. He was just feeling a little ill and got himself tested, and he was positive. So he's sequestered himself to his hotel room. His wife, my mother-in-law Jan, is in her other hotel room then. They got a separate room, so they're not even in the same room together, but such an honor to be bestowed upon him. He was given these questions, and so I'm speaking as Robert here then. And he says to that question, he says, after the South Dakota Psychological Association had worked to improve training and practice standards, we wanted to get insurance companies to cover the cost of the services so that hardworking families would not also have the financial burden. Blue Cross and Blue Shield was the key. After a long negotiation session, I suggested they cover the service for 1 year and then evaluate. They agreed, and at the end of the year, payments to qualified non-physician mental health professionals became permanent. Thank you.
Dr. Homan, would you share a thought or two?
Yes, thank you, Dave. You know, I thought about this, and there were so many opportunities and pathways we were blessed with to open the doors for children. And the one I thought I would share is, there was a time of which our oldest daughter, Phoenicia, was serving as a missionary in Slovakia. And so over the Christmas break, we went to visit her in Slovakia, Tim and myself and Betsy. And she was in a village that I framed as a remote village, a stone's throw from the Ukrainian border. And in that village, I had the opportunity to go visit their school. And the school felt like just this decrepit, broken down, old slate boards, really in disarray, but it's where the children learned. And in visiting that school, I learned that those children were learning 3 languages. And it struck me that we were a monolinguistic society in our community and in the United States. And so I remember distinctly coming home in that January in 2006, pulling the team together and inspiring them and challenging them to really question the process and the status quo. And the story to be told is the first class of that Spanish immersion program are now juniors in college, and the current elementary school has 655 children in it. And I'm really proud to say that 3 of my 4 grandchildren attend the school. The 4th one will be when he turns 5.
Thank you, Pam. Larry, would you comment on this?
You may want to start a clock. But, I'm going to tell a story that has to do more with imagining something that doesn't exist as opposed to rearranging what you have. And for me, that happened, it was 25 years ago at Public Broadcasting. We started an Internet Services division. It was me and one other person, and had a nephew that played basketball at Black Hills State. And they would go to the NAIA tournament in Idaho, and late in his career, you could turn on your computer and listen to the home team broadcast and watch the score change. I thought, this is really cool. And I took that idea and during a board meeting in Pierre, went up to the High School Activities Association and sat down with Marlon Goldhammer. And Marlon just celebrated his 90th birthday. And I wanted to explain to him this idea, but I realized Ruth Rain was bringing paper into him. It was his email. He didn't know how to run his computer. So I thought, boy, this is going to work out well. What happened next is I said, we would like to have press credentials to cover the basketball tournament for boys in 2001 for the internet. And he said, you've got to come to a board meeting. And I did, and we got press credentials. We went to Daktronics. They had a new product called DakStats, which was in beta. And we got use of that and covered the basketball tournament. And I thought, holy smokes, we're onto something here. So I went back to Marlon and before their April board meeting, and we put together a contract so Public Broadcasting would cover every one of their events, fine arts and athletics, throughout the year. But there was no rights fee, and I said, Marlon, maybe we should write something down. If this generates income, we should split it. And he put his hand on my shoulder and said, look, if you can make any money with the internet, go ahead and keep it. So we did. We started that fall, and we promised to do all of the work ourselves and not ask schools or other people to do part of that work for us. We did that for a few years. It expanded into a partnership with a Rapid City station to cover TV. They lost interest, so Public took over, and when it came time to renew the bid, and I always tell this part because for you and your colleagues, because people sometimes say, why did you take that away from the commercial stations? Well, we put together a bid to cover the tournaments, and our bid was a kind of a profit-sharing bid, and I was there when they opened the bids, and that year, Public Broadcasting was the only TV station in the state that submitted a bid to do the broadcasts. And I thought, here we go, and instead of doing 5, we now do 17 throughout the year. And I'm very happy with that, because what it taught ourselves is that anything could be done, and that served us well.
Yeah. I would just say, me personally, but on behalf of all the people across South Dakota and grandparents everywhere, the coverage, the depth, the breadth, and the quality of the coverage is just exceptional. So thank you for the vision and the passion to make that all happen. Well, we all know that not everything in life goes straight up, right? And so there's inevitably obstacles or challenges that come in our way. And I know a few of you will be willing to comment on some of the ones you faced and some lessons learned. And with that, I'm going to ask Paul Vinatieri to speak on behalf of his son, Adam.
Turned it off. You didn't want to hear me, did you?
It's an old trick.
As you can see, I'm the rookie up here. I have notes that Adam said you bring out. Anyway, and my phone went off. That was to tell you you're done speaking. Anyway, Adam, when he was in sports in high school, participated in wrestling, track, football, soccer, everything, and he was a natural at it. So he goes to college, and he's a natural at college. He's an All-American in football, punting, and in kicking. So he thought, well, after college, I'm just going to the NFL. And nobody contacted him. And so he was kind of bummed, and he asked me, what should he do? Brian Hansen was the punter for the New York Jets, practices at Mankato. I said, Brian's there. I would ask him. So he got in his truck, drove all the way to Mankato, and practiced with Brian Hansen. Hansen says, you got talent, but Doug Blevins, who is in Virginia, is a kicking coach. He comes back home, gets in his pickup, drives off to Virginia, and works with Doug for about 6 months, and he's also a waiter. Makes good money at being a waiter. He gets a letter of intent from the World Football League at Amsterdam. He comes home and says, I'm going to Amsterdam. So he goes to Amsterdam and does quite well, comes back, and when he gets off the plane, somebody you might know, Belichick, meets him there and says, I want you to come to New England. Adam, this was funny too. I didn't know the Patriots where New England town was. So Adam calls, he says, well, I'm going to New England to play football. Where's that at? What town is that? Didn't know, have a clue. So he starts and he goes to New England, does quite well, and had some good years. And Parcells, if anybody knows about Parcells, he's not like Hanny. He's a mean guy. And the reporter asked Adam, he says, when you miss a field goal, what do? Adam says, I look where Coach Parcells is, and I leave the field at the farthest distance. But anyway, he did quite well, and the thing that he always said is, if you don't try, it's not going to happen.
Amen. Thank you, Paul. Walt, you want to comment on some challenges or obstacles you've overcome? And then you're in the farming business, I know.
No challenges at all. None, not a bit. I think what I was going to maybe talk about a little bit was the challenges of being in a family business. Many of you are, I'm sure, in family businesses in one form or another, and the statistics on the longevity of family businesses, once you get past the second or third generation, are pretty bleak. And I've been blessed that, I'm the fourth generation on our farm, and blessed with some nephews that are coming back and being with my brothers, and to be the fifth generation. But I think one of the lessons that needs to be learned is we all have challenges. I can't imagine my great-grandfather, when he homesteaded, having to plow up some sod to build a house. I can't imagine my grandfather going through the 30s, the dirty 30s, and all that transpired. I can't imagine, I was around during the 80s, kind of when we went through that downturn. And so, the pressures, the expectations, I think, of my generation, the next generation, can sometimes be just as overbearing and burdensome as somebody that's just starting out, trying to start a business for the first time. So one of the lessons, I guess, that we learned was that, like all of us, we talk all the time, but are we really communicating? And we see that on the farm every day. We talk all the time, but are we really communicating? And so we ended up bringing in a gentleman that I'd run into over the course of the years from San Diego, California, to do he's a professional futurist, professional facilitator, and spent 2 or 3 days at our place, got to learn the dynamics about the family and the business and everything, and we sat down for a whole day with our family, my 2 brothers, brother-in-law, 3 nephews, hired men, and just talked about, where we want to go and how we're going to get there. So, communication.
Dr. Griffiths.
Thank you. Okay, no feedback now. Thank you. Yes, I thought I would talk a little bit about the challenge of being a woman in a high-tech field, and being a young woman in a high-tech field at a time when technology was moving very rapidly. Just to give you a little bit of background, my parents both went through World War II. So my father was a forward artillery spotter all the way through World War II in Montgomery's army, and so he never wanted to be noticed, right, as a forward spotter. My mother was Dutch, lived under German occupation. She was brown-eyed, dark blonde. She didn't want to be noticed particularly when she lived. So we tended to live a quiet life, When I went to my grade school, it was a convent school. We had this process where if anybody did anything wrong, then at the regular assembly, they had to stand out of line. We called it standing out. So standing out had a sort of negative connotation for my family because, if your uniform wasn't right or you were wearing the wrong shoes or you did something wrong, you'd be standing out. It didn't happen to me very often, once or twice. But here I come to the United States. I'm a young woman, I've got my PhD, I know about technology. I've worked for Marconi Avionics on avionics systems, like you know about those. And I come in and I'm launched into the Washington, D.C. area, and I go to a lot of meetings because I'm doing federal contracts, particularly for Department of Energy. And I'm in a room full of dark suits, basically. How on earth am I going to navigate my way through this and be taken seriously? So I had a couple of strategies. Number 1, wear a bright jacket, okay? Pink, blue, green, red, it didn't matter, but you stand out in this sea of dark suits. People might not remember who I was, but they would know, I talked to the young woman in a whatever color jacket. The second thing I had going for me was my name. So if people hadn't met me yet, they really weren't quite sure if I was male or female, and they all expected me to be, Hispanic. So that was sort of interesting, meeting people for the first time from IBM, and suddenly they're not sure, is this the person I'm supposed to be meeting? Oh, and then you could see people sort of backpedaling a bit. That helped. But I also learned that it's a good idea to really have a focus. So if I meet with a group of people in the technology world, I would have a specific agenda of what I wanted to accomplish from that meeting, whether it's a board or a council or just a business meeting. And by focusing in, people would tend to remember what I said. So don't talk too much, which is what everybody expects of women. That's a bit sexist, I know, but that's the attitude that still prevails. But make what you say mean something. so that afterwards people would say, who was it? Oh, yes, it was the woman in the bright red jacket who said this. And that way, people started to take me seriously.
Well, I'll tell you, they take you seriously now. And your beautiful pink outfit looks great. I won't forget. One of the really important roles that we play at the South Dakota Hall of Fame is to inspire the next generation, our youth, about what's possible, what can be done here. A few of you are going to talk about some advice that you might be willing to share, because oftentimes our youth feel like they have to leave South Dakota for opportunity, and I know you have something you'd like to share with them. So with that, we're going to begin with Hanny. Would you care to comment on that?
People think that, limited resources may limit your ability to achieve your goals. And with my background, coming in from where I came from, and then coming into South Dakota and going to School of Mines and graduating from School of Mines, you think, well, South Dakota may not provide the opportunities that most people think that they want to be big and grow and prosper and everything else like that. And those dreams are shared by everyone around the world. And everybody thinks that the opportunities are limited because of, like, oh my God, South Dakota, a bunch of cows, a bunch of horses, and they don't realize how much there is for opportunities. And for somebody like me to really make it in South Dakota, with my background, I think anyone in South Dakota, no matter if they are in Pine Ridge Reservation or in Sioux Falls and Rapid City, could make it even better than I have done. So my advice to them, the opportunities are limitless, and don't let your current situation or current challenges really kill your dream. Your dream requires tenacity, hard work, and continuous effort, and you will get there no matter what kind of obstacles you're facing.
Some time ago, there was a knock at the door. I answered it. It was two Jehovah's Witnesses. I invited them in. We sat down on the couch. I said, well, what do you want to talk about? They said, we don't know. We've never made it this far before. So that wasn't one of my influences. I remember being in a hotel once. There was a Bible beside the bed. I opened it up. There's a message inside that said, if you are an alcoholic, if you think you have a drinking problem, please call this number. I called it. It was a liquor store. No, I got to get serious here. I got a lot of, what do I say about South Dakota? I left it 2 or 3 times. I took off in 1956 and went to Yellowstone Park, and my summers I spent in Yellowstone Park. Came back all the time. Finally, I wanted to get out of South Dakota. I wanted to go to. Roger Miller always said, "Never work in your hometown, never take a wood into a sand trap, and if the room says $29.95, skip the complimentary breakfast." But I ended up back here. I was in LA for a long time, my wife and I, and we came back and we'd been out there for 30 years. Came back and wondered if we could actually do an international act out of South Dakota, and we made it work through. Well, except for the first couple of years, we stayed at a cabin in Spearfish Canyon. It snowed 300 inches. That didn't help, but after that, things got better. And to be able to go out to work out of South Dakota, coming back and forth, and people always say, "Where are you from?" I say, "I'm from South Dakota." And they say, "Where is that? Is that like North Dakota?" I say, "No, it's not like North Dakota. It's south of North Dakota." And kind of I don't really know how to tell you. I guess I have to say that my dad's work ethic. It took a long time for me
to start being like my father, and now I'm pretty much a fanatic about it. I work all the time, and I don't know what I'd do if I wasn't working. And I think we had that with my dad and my mom raising the family. We grew up with a great family, and South Dakota is just, I used to make fun of South Dakota. I did in my act. I used to do things in my act like things you'll never hear in the Black Hills of western South Dakota. Honey, quick, Streisand's on PBS. Or things like, one more thing you'll never hear in the Black Hills of western South Dakota. But that's not true anymore. And I'm just doing time up here now, and I'm doing my act. I shouldn't be doing that. I just think I'm very fortunate to be here, and my life, the way that it's been up and down, this is a great place to be. It really is. It's a great place to come back to, and it's a great place for people to come and settle in. And I know because I've been all over the place to see it. I work in Nashville all the time. Nashville has exploded. It's not Nashville anymore. Things like that. Just come back to South Dakota. I don't know what else to say. I've got a lot of jokes, but they're not appropriate. So I'm just gonna say, it's a great place to be. I'm blessed to have my incredible family is still here. I grew up on a fantastic ranch. My sister took it over after Dad passed away, kept it the way it was for years and years. It's hard to watch it now that it's been sold to be developed, but on the other hand, it's just a great place to be. And I'm babbling, and I think that's it. All right.
So Gary, before you turn the mic over, I'm just dying to ask you, what do you do for fun?
What I do for fun? Well, I like to play golf. I'm not very good at golf. I like to play golf. I like to fly fish. Yeah. I like to fly fish when I get the chance. And I like to take 1- and 2-day trips with my wife, with Nita and I. Just take off not knowing where we're going to end up, and with no reservations where to stay or whatever. Do things like that. But fun for me is that 13 minutes every night we do in the Grand Ole Opry. That's as good as it gets. I like to make people laugh with their kids laugh with their parents. I bridge the gap, and I'm blessed for that. It really am. That's probably my best time is when I'm on stage. And get this microphone away from me, I'll go into some other joke, okay?
Dave, can I say one quick thing?
Please do, Larry.
On behalf of Gary, if you take Hanny, myself, and Gary and average the three of us together, we have just enough hair for 3 people.
That was awesome. Dr. Dean, would you care to comment on this?
There it is. This is a complicated question, and because there's many aspects to it. But the first thing I would say, I spoke to a group of high school students a few months ago, and the first thing I told them was, don't set your sights too low, and don't ever apologize or feel self-conscious or apologetic about coming from a rural state or a small town, because you can do this. You can do whatever you want, but as a number of folks have said, you just have to have confidence that you can do it, and also, as I think has come up, it's okay to go around. You don't. I think the most unfortunate thing is that some people tend, and I don't have any examples, but people tend to think, well, that's too big a job. I could never do that. I'm just from a rural state, but you can, and I'm probably a good example of that. I grew up in Gerald County, but I left for 15 years, and I went to high school, or I went to college in Minnesota. I went to medical school in New York. Actually, when I was in New York, I probably heard every unfortunate joke about South Dakota that you can ever imagine. The most common one being, I didn't know anybody lived there. And and I spent a year in England, and I was in Seattle, and I was in Kentucky. And then Kathy and I decided to move back to South Dakota after having all this experience, and I think that I can say categorically, and I think she agrees with me, it was the best decision we ever made. And it's because I think, in a way, a lot of the things that we may feel self-conscious about are tremendous values that a lot of people are missing in other areas. So every chance I get, I tell kids, you know, it's okay. You need to get around, but come back.
Come back indeed. I think we could spend all day up here, but we probably need to bring this to a close. And I want to do it with this question. What is one trait or characteristic or piece of advice that has served you well during your career, during your lifetime, that you'd be willing to share with us? And Bruce Badmoccasin, we're going to start with you.
Thank you. Yes, I guess over the years I've been different jobs. I worked, I went with the Commissioned Corps, like the military, and with the Army too. So I was all the time, show up, no late. And that was what I did. Focus, and every day what they did. So what I did is when I took on to an healthcare system, and every year looked at funds and the hospitals, health centers. You're looking every day about what's going on, all the places, North Dakota, Nebraska, the same problem. So what I did is work with the staff in Aberdeen and on the reservation. I looked at all the tribal health board. What's their needs? How can you get there? So it was my job to work with all the people you talk to, the state, county, the tribe, and IHS. So things have changed now. Now things have changed a little bit. So I guess I'd say that I would go on, think about your vision, wish, look about the things for next year, and ask for things happen to you themselves. What I said that I would say, take the career path, your journey to your path. So what I'd say that what you do is you look at faith and believe in yourself and the people that you work with them. Thank you.
Eric, since the mic is over there, let's have you represent Dr. Arnio.
Yes, again, speaking as Robert, he says, my father came here from Finland during a depression in that country. He was first a ranch hand and then a logger. He would tell me how much opportunity there was in the U.S. He said working here to get ahead is not a responsibility, but it is a privilege. I would say to myself, you don't have to go to work. You get to go to work.
Paul, let's let you comment on this, and then we'll close out with Dr. Homan. Gary, if you could pass that mic over. Yeah.
Three things that Adam always said. Work hard and never give up. You never know if you don't try. Family is the most important thing.
Thank you. And Dr. Homan.
Context to my advice. I was a freshman at Augustana, and I was taking overloads. I was trying to work many hours at a part-time job. My mom was diagnosed with terminal cancer. I wanted to be at her side all of the time. I wanted to be a sense of support and courage to my dad and my little sister Jill. And I was emotionally spent. And I thought about, I think I have a solution. because I felt I was just failing at everything. So I remember driving home from class one day and walking in the back door and looking at my dad, and I said, "Dad, I'm just going to drop from Augie right now." And he looked at me and he said, "You know what? You can do that, Pam. But if you do, you have to know that all of the hopes and dreams you have in life may not become reality." He was right. I hung in there, and the advice I share is that although life might give you many, many hurdles and bumps and challenges, with grit and determination, your hopes and dreams will become reality.
What a great way to close out our time together. Thank you, Pam. Well, thank you, class of 23. This is the first time that we've had the opportunity to do this, to have you share your wisdom and some insights and let us get to know you just a little bit better. It's certainly been fun for me. I know it's been fun for the audience, and I just want to say thank you and congratulations one more time. So from noon to 1, our inductees will be manning their stations, and so you're invited to spend some time walking around talking to them one-on-one. And so that'll happen from noon to 1. And then at 1:30, we'll be celebrating with our anniversary inductees that will be recognized at the Visitor and Education Center. That's from 1:30 to 3. And then we will be back right here in the lobby at 4 o'clock for social time, and at 5:30 we'll begin our banquet together. So we hope you enjoy your day, and thank you for being here.